The sun rose gently over the hills, casting golden light over the dusty roads of Galilee. The town was beginning to stir with life, merchants setting up their stalls, children playing, and travelers making their way along the well-trodden paths. Among them was Jesus, walking calmly with a purpose known only to him. His disciples followed closely, eager to witness whatever miracle or teaching the day might bring. On the outskirts of the town, a blind beggar sat by the roadside. His name was Bartimaeus. He was a man who had been blind since birth, his days filled with darkness and his nights consumed by an endless longing for light. Bartimaeus was well known to the townsfolk. His cries for alms had become a familiar backdrop to their daily lives. Yet despite the meager coins tossed into his cup, he remained an outcast, a man defined by his affliction. Bartimaeus often pondered the stories he heard from passers-by. Tales of a man named Jesus of Nazareth, a teacher and healer who performed miracles. These accounts kindled a spark of hope within him, though he hardly dared to believe they could be true. That morning, as he sat in his usual spot, Bartimaeus felt a strange energy in the air. The usual chatter of the crowd was accompanied by whispers of excitement. "Jesus is coming this way," someone murmured. Bartimaeus' heart leapt. Could it be true? Was the man who healed the sick and gave sight to the blind truly within reach? He strained his ears, focusing on the approaching footsteps and the voices that grew louder. Summoning all his courage, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." The crowd around him frowned, some rolling their eyes, others scolding him. "Be quiet, beggar. Don't bother the teacher," they said. But Bartimaeus was undeterred. His cries grew louder, more desperate. This was his moment, perhaps his only chance to encounter the man who could change his life forever. Jesus heard the cries and stopped in his tracks. Turning to his disciples, he said, "Call him here." The disciples, slightly puzzled but obedient, approached Bartimaeus. "Take heart," they said, their voices softening. "He is calling you." Bartimaeus sprang to his feet, casting aside his cloak, and stumbled toward the sound of the voice that had beckoned him. When he reached Jesus, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace, as though the weight of his years of suffering had already begun to lift. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked, his voice filled with compassion. "Rabbi, I want to see," Bartimaeus replied, his voice trembling with both hope and fear. Jesus looked at him with love and said, "Go, your faith has healed you." At that moment, Bartimaeus' world transformed. The darkness that had been his constant companion was replaced by light. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the brightness, and for the first time, he saw the faces of those around him. But most importantly, he saw Jesus, whose gaze was steady and kind. The crowd, stunned into silence, erupted in praise. "A miracle!" they shouted. "Truly, this man is sent by God!" Bartimaeus fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you, Lord," he whispered. "You have not only given me sight, but also hope and a new life." From that day forward, he became a follower of Jesus, his heart filled with gratitude and his life transformed. The story of Bartimaeus is more than just a miracle. It is a testament to faith, hope, and transformation. Let us delve deeper into these themes. Bartimaeus' faith is evident in his unrelenting cries for Jesus' attention. Despite the discouragement from the crowd, he believed in the possibility of a miracle. His faith was not merely a passive hope, but an active vocal assertion of his belief in Jesus' power. Faith, as demonstrated by Bartimaeus, is not hindered by obstacles. It persists even in the face of doubt and rejection. Living in perpetual darkness, Bartimaeus could have easily resigned himself to his fate. Yet the stories of Jesus ignited a flicker of hope within him. Hope, as portrayed in this story, is the spark that propels us toward faith. It is the belief that even in the most dire circumstances, change is possible. The physical healing of Bartimaeus is symbolic of a deeper, spiritual transformation. His encounter with Jesus not only restores his sight, but also renews his purpose. No longer a blind beggar, he becomes a follower of Christ, a man whose life now testifies to the power of God's love and mercy. Bartimaeus' story invites us to reflect on our own lives. How often do we allow the voices of doubt, whether from others or within ourselves, to silence our cries for help? How often do we hesitate to approach God with our needs, fearing rejection or disappointment?